Welcome to College, the Crossroads of Life, the podcast edition. Today, we're going to be discussing the first two episodes of our series, asking why we want to go to college, as well as what are the major aspects in the colleges that we applied for that we were looking for. So, let's start it off. Tati, why did you want to go to college? What was the big reason and factor for you?
Honestly, it just was the option for my household. It's either the military or college, unless you have a solid business plan or anything of that sort. So it's just kind of what I grew up knowing, like, okay, I'm going to college, and I guess that was kind of it. And plus, my major kind of doesn't allow me to go any other path besides to college, so yeah.
So what is your major going to be in college?
Oh, my major is psychology. Not sure exactly where I'm going in that. Probably in the criminal justice path, maybe. We'll see.
So Silas, what were the big reasons that you wanted to go to college?
Yeah, so my dad's a college professor, so basically when I was born I knew that I was going to go to college, but as I got older into my high school career, I think that I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and a liberal arts college experience just kind of opened that up and showed me that I didn't have to know what I wanted to do to be successful. So the idea of being able to go to college, post high school, and explore a bunch of different subjects and really take a couple years for a lot of personal growth, just socially, but also academically and professionally, to really figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life.
Yeah, so do you think you could speak a little bit more about the liberal arts education experience and maybe the difference between that and maybe like a big research institution?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different kinds of colleges in America. They can range from very specific pre-professional institutions where you learn a specific skill, and for 4 years you study the exact same trade, and so you come out mastering one thing, like a music school. There's also the liberal arts model, in which you sample a large variety of different kinds of classes and courses that give you a better picture of the broader education model. So at my school, I'm going to get the chance to take math, science, humanities, dance. I could take a huge variety of different classes that will hopefully help me to figure out what I want to do long term. And for me, that was the biggest thing. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I'm hoping that if one thing speaks to me, I'll be able to continue on and then pursue something pre-professional in that area.
So basically, if you're going to a liberal arts institution, you're going to look for something like you're going to be a writer, going into political science, things of that nature, compared to where at a large research institution, maybe more like the STEM fields, like your engineering, your biology, your chemistry, and stuff like that, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Jamik, how about you? What were the big reasons why you wanted to go to college?
For me personally, growing up, college was never really like pressed on me. Like my parents left that as an open option. I didn't have to go. But like Tati said, my major, which is intended major, is nursing. I kind of have to go to college for that. And and I'm a first generation, so none of my parents graduated from college. So that was kind of also a main factor in that. Like I wanted to do that for them and also for myself.
Awesome. So for me personally, similar to Silas, both my parents are teachers within the RCSD, the Rochester City School District, and both went to college at the University of Rochester, and that's where they met. And kind of from there, they kind of knew that they wanted their kids to have an experience like they had in college. So it's kind of the only option for me, similar to Silas. But I had a lot of freedom and choice in the college decisions that I wanted to make and the schools that I wanted to apply to, rather than them kind of forcing me to go into one path or another. I will never become a teacher like them. You will never see me ever in a classroom, maybe doing some presentation for my kids, like, but bring your father to school day. I don't know, but I'm not going to be a teacher. That's all I'm saying right here and right now, making it official.
There you go. It's locked in.
Yeah.
Now, wait, Aiden, I want to know, how did you decide what did you want to get out of your college experience? What kind of factors made you choose the school that you did?
So next year I'm going to be going to American University in Washington, D.C., and I will be studying political science and with probably a minor in international relations, and I'm also going to be swimming at the Division I level. So a couple different factors came into place when I wanted to go into college. One was I want a good swim team. American University is in the Patriot League, which is a very competitive Division I conference with schools like the Naval Academy, the Army, Loyola, and it's a place where I'm not going to be the top of the pack coming in, both on the team and in the conference, but I have the ability, if I really put in the work and effort, to get to the top, and that's what I really want to do over the next 4 years. So swimming was a big part of my college decision, talking to coaches, figuring out what I liked, what I didn't like when it came to a team, and what they were doing like in practice, as well as like kind of the culture of the team. Another big thing was obviously the academics. Academics will always be number one over swimming, always. And for me, I was looking for a place that had a really good political science program. I want to go into politics and probably law school after my time at American, so I needed to get a good basis. And with it being in Washington, D.C., there was always going to be opportunities for working at the Capitol as like a Hill turn, which is an internship that you do on Capitol Hill, or work in the State Department doing something there, or any federal agency that's in Washington, D.C. So that was a big part for me in having a really rigorous program, and American has a really, really good one. And then lastly was being in a large metropolitan city that was really diverse. And obviously, with Washington, D.C. being the capital of the United States, you're going to learn from all sorts of different kinds of people, both on campus and out in the community, as well as have opportunities like to go to the Smithsonian museums on maybe a weekend, or go monumenting at night and go see the Lincoln Memorial, which I really, really want to do. So yeah, those were like the big three reasons. The school's location, the swim team that the school had, and then how well I could have my intended major and the internships that could go along with that. So yeah.
That's awesome. I think I'll say mine is pretty similar. I'm also an athlete, so I was looking for a Division I soccer program, and then also, like you said, the location was a huge factor for me. I've always lived in Rochester, except for a couple of times I've had the privilege of being able to travel outside the country, and most recently I lived in Auckland, New Zealand for 4 months, and comparing that city of 2 million to Rochester's about 200,000, I fell in love with the urban area, and I knew that I wanted to have that in my college experience. So I was able to, slash off a ton of schools that weren't in major metropolitan areas. So location was a big thing for me. So was athletics, and then the last thing was also the academic side. Although I don't know what I want to study like you. And I noticed that you said something about your location that had to do with what you were studying too, because Washington, D.C. is a hot spot of, political opportunities. I think that the area that I'm going to be in is also going to provide opportunities for whatever I choose to end up studying. What about you, Tati?
For me, when it came to picking a college, at first, I became a huge fan of HBCUs, and my whole list was dedicated to HBCUs. And then I did more research on 4+1 programs, which is basically you would do 4 years of your normal 4 years, and then your senior year you would begin taking master classes, not master classes, but you would begin studying to get your master's degree, and then you would stay another year to finish off getting your master's degree. So you would graduate with your bachelor's and your master's at one time, saving some cash, and coming out with that degree is definitely a nice starter for anyone coming out of college. And then so from there, my list changed to more schools that had that program, and I also had a really good psychology program. That was the major thing for me. I knew coming in to applying to college that I wanted to go into psychology. The whole neuroscience and human development is a huge thing for me. I'm really interested in it. So I was like, yep, this is what I want to do. And then another thing came down to location. when I went to Boston for the first time, I was like, oh, this is a big city. I'm loving the energy. There's things to do all the time. I can meet all these new people. That was just a huge thing for me. Coming from a small city, I was like, yeah, no, I want to go somewhere where I meet new people. I don't see the same faces every day. Like, yeah, that was huge. And then, I think and then, again with location, just going somewhere far. I didn't want to be close to home, but not far enough where I can't come home if I wanted to. Just being able to really get out and be an adult and have that real life experience was a major key for me.
So Tati, where are you going next year?
Oh yeah, I should probably mention that. I am going to Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Yay!
Yes, with my friend Silas here. We'll be in Philly living it up.
And Silas, would you also mention where you're going to school? You kind of didn't. Forgot to say.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot. I'm going to be going to the University of Pennsylvania, also in Philadelphia. So me and Tati are going to be living it up there in Philly.
Ivy boy. Oh yeah, gotta love that. Jamik, you want to speak to your college decisioning process and what you were looking for in different schools?
Yeah, sure. So, personally, one thing for me that I was really looking for in a school is diversity. Just because, our school I would say it's pretty diverse. We have just about, every kind of race in there. And I know that that's what I wanted. I didn't want to go to, a predominantly white institution because I know, I would feel a little awkward. That's just me personally. And then also the cost was a really big thing for me because my parents aren't really financial aid, that scholarships. I really need a lot of that. So I wanted to go to a school where I know would provide me with what I needed because I don't want to graduate with a lot of debt. I mean, I know I'll have some, but I don't want to be swimming in pools of debt at 21. That just wasn't for me. And also with the location thing, Tati, she wanted to go far. I didn't want to. I want to stay in New York because for the nursing degree, it'll be harder to go out of state and get it and then come back to New York because New York doesn't take a lot of other states' requirements for nursing. And I eventually want to move to the city, so that was always okay, I want to stay in New York because it'll be easier and the cost of in-state is way cheaper as well. So I didn't commit anywhere yet, but my top choices right now is University at Buffalo and also Binghamton University is up there. So yeah, we'll see where. I have a couple more weeks, so we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, and definitely looking into different schools within your specific state, state institutions and universities. We obviously live in New York, so we have the SUNY system, which stands for State Universities of New York, and there are, I don't even know how many. Anyone have any idea how many SUNYs there probably are? Probably 50-ish.
There's SUNYs and then there's CUNYs,
Right.
so
Yeah,
there's a lot.
so yeah, there's even more. And CUNYs are city universities of New York, which are specifically for New York City, but are all in the same system. And those schools will give you an in-state tuition, which is a lot cheaper than a private institution or going to a school maybe Pennsylvania State University or University of North Carolina, which that out-of-state tuition is going to be really expensive because you don't live there.
Definitely. I applied to CUNY John Jay College of Criminal Justice for forensic psychology, and the school's tuition in total was $4,000. So you compare that to Temple University, their tuition without financial aid is $45,000. So
Jeez.
you're looking at that and you're like, whoa, I'd be walking out with maybe $2,000, not even $2,000, $8,000 in debt compared to $100,000 in debt. So it's whoa, that difference. But then again, you have to remember, what is the school going to offer you and what do you want to do in your future? And that's what my choice came down to. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go the FBI route, so I chose a safer school where I can make that decision if I decide to, but it also is giving me more than just one specific, major.
Yeah, there's a big part that we go through in one of our videos talking about how sometimes the costs, but not the benefits outweigh the costs. Or is it benefits outweigh the cost? I'm trying to think that we talk about.
Well, I mean, we have a large section on the economic benefits of college,
Yeah.
and so sometimes you got to spend money to make money.
That's what I meant.
And that's kind of what we talked about in that little section. Like a school could be genuinely more expensive, but there is data that graduates of this specific school have much higher earnings than another school or not going to school at all. So you kind of have to just look at the opportunities that a college degree will provide you versus the amount of money you're investing in yourself by going to college.
Yeah, and that's an important thing to look for in your college search process, right? Is not only maybe the location, the diversity of the schools, which are ridiculously important, and as well as the academic programs the school offers, but also look at like the college retention rate for freshmen, right? Do all the freshmen stay for the most part on campus after their first year, or do they kind of just flunk out? Or if a school's graduation rate is a lot lower than their acceptance rate, what is that really saying about the school? Which isn't always great. So you want to look for things like that within the school to see are people coming out of college with jobs already, or going maybe straight into their not their master studies, but getting their masters, or going to law school, med school, something along those lines. So that's an important thing that you want to look for is, are people being successful at this school, and will they continue being successful after getting their degree there?
For sure. This is actually a little off topic, but I have a question for both Tati and Jamik. I know we were talking about diversity, but I noticed that both of you guys, well, I don't know if you mentioned it, but I do know that both of you guys applied to HBCUs and were highly considering them, and are highly considering them. Obviously, you committed to Temple, so not anymore, but Jamik still. Could you talk a little bit about how that environment of, very, not diverse at all, but something that might foster this environment of community for you, how would that impact your college experience, not just socially, but also academically and professionally later on?
Tati, you want to start?
You can start.
Well, I can just say the school. I only applied to one HBCU, which is Morgan State, and I got in for the Honors College of Nursing, and it's still up there on my list, but I'm trying to think. Like I said, I'm used to diversity, so I had to think about how good I would do academically and even socially in an environment where it's all of one race, which I would love to do that, but I don't know how. I feel like when I think of HBCUs, I hate to say it, but I kind of think of more the party environment, and I feel like I wouldn't be able to balance those parties and that social life with my education. Like I said, I would love to go to one of those, a HBCU. I feel like that's that was my dream for a while. I knew I wanted to go to HBCU, I wanted to do this, but then I had to think okay, Jamik, how are you going to do in an environment like that? And I know myself, I know I would love to go there for the homecomings. I'm in band, I would love to be in the marching bands, but when it comes to the academics and the schooling, I know I wouldn't be able to balance all that out, and that's just for me. I don't know about you.
I got into Howard University, which is one of the, I wouldn't say one of the top schools, but everyone knows that school. So whenever you say, oh yeah, I got into Howard, they're like, oh, really? So that put a lot of pressure on me to choose that school, because my parents are huge fans of HBCUs. They wish they went there. It's just huge opportunity to be around people just like you, and strive for greater. And it put this pressure on me, if I don't pick that, am I disappointing my family? Am I disappointing, myself in the future? But so it came down to academics, really. Like Aiden said, Washington is a political environment. Everyone goes to Washington with an agenda, and I wanted to go into psychology. So for me to go to a political science school wasn't really helping me in a way. It would have been nice to have that experience. So it's like Jamik was saying, the party opportunities, being around people like you, same background, been through the same struggles. People say it's an unforgettable experience. It just came down to the school is really not for my major, and it was kind of hard to be like, no, don't want to go here. But honestly, that's what it came down to, just knowing this school is as good as it's gonna, like, not as good as it's gonna get, but like this school is gonna give me the most opportunity. Temple is gonna give me the most opportunity in my field and give me the most research and the most, interaction with my major and people. And Howard would have gave me a great opportunity, but just pointed me in a different direction. So I guess that's how it came down, to making the decision.
That makes a lot of sense. And before we move on, I kind of want to change. I want to ask another question, actually. I know you mentioned about your family and how that relationship was impacting your decision. Does anybody else want to speak to how other people's expectations of your college experience impacted how you looked for a college?
Yeah, I can definitely speak to the family part, I think, a little bit. So another thing, so I applied to 8 schools in total. I got into 7 out of the 8, and the only one I didn't get into was Cornell. And with how things have been going this year, where they got like double the normal amount that they did, there was no way I was getting in, and it wasn't also the right environment for me. But a couple of the schools on my list were small liberal arts colleges in like random areas in the Northeast and mainly New England. But my parents kind of pushed me to be like, go look at these schools that have these huge endowments. And endowments are basically, how do I best explain an endowment? An endowment is like a bunch of money that the school has, but like don't have direct access to, but they have for like scholarship opportunities or investing into a new building or something like that. And it's just like basically like the overall net worth of the school, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah, it's like the school's backup bank account.
Yeah.
Like how much they are actually worth and how much money they have behind them.
Yeah. So I applied to schools that had close to $1 billion endowment or more, and I got a ridiculous amount of financial aid at those schools, which was awesome. But again, they weren't in the best locations. Personally, for me, they were out in the middle of nowhere, which I really didn't want. But that might be the right thing for some people who want to go like and really focus on their major and be in like a small area, and like the school is like the center of it, which is great for some people. But obviously that wasn't the route that I chose. But that was definitely something that my family pushed me to do. At least have a couple options with these schools with huge endowments. So if things like worst case scenario, I can't go to my top choice, I have a school that gave me a lot of financial aid because of the endowment, and yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It sounds like your parents were well aware of these schools that would be able to give you a lot of financial aid and support you through your college experience. Jamik, I'm interested to hear about how your family and friends kind of impacted your college experience being a first-generation student.
Yeah, so like I said, since I am a first gen, a lot of like some of my parents and also like family members and also counselors, like advisors, they were kind of pushing me to go towards like the community college. It was like, oh, like this is what you should do, this is the best. But I didn't want to do that because I know I can do better. Not better than that, but I see myself like at a 4-year institution, a university. I just knew that's what I wanted. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with those MCC is a great school. Like there's a lot of community colleges, GCC, that are amazing, but I just know for me personally, I could have done better for that, and I wanted to do better for myself because I'm a first gen. Like I want to do this like the way that I want to do it, and I want to set the tone for those my younger cousins who might look up to me like, oh, Jamik went to this school, I should try to get into. Like push yourself. I wanted to push myself. That's basically, and I know that's like you always talk about that. To like do more and to go to a 4-year school, and especially with the nursing thing, like because that's very competitive. So I had a lot of people telling me like, oh no, you should do this and then eventually try because it's too competitive. But like I know I can do it, and I want to do this for myself, so I'm gonna push myself. I don't care how hard I have to work. I see myself doing this, so I'm gonna do whatever I can to do it.
I love that level of self-belief, and that's super important. Obviously, you're making the final decision, and you should choose what's right for you at the end of the day. Other people, it sounds like Aiden had a really positive influence. I know I had a really positive influence. My parents were crucial in my college journey, even though I didn't end up going to the school maybe my dad wanted exactly, because I just wanted slightly different things. And that sounds kind of like what, Jamik, you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that'll wrap it up for our first podcast episode of College, the Crossroads of Life. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe and hit that like button, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.